So, Chicago Bears, probably the
Go
most
Bears.
interesting team we're going to talk about as far as what the hell can we expect from these guys. Losses. Quarterback Justin Fields is now backing up quarterback Russell Wilson as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Not a sentence I thought I was going to be saying this offseason. We got wide receiver Darnell Mooney going to Atlanta. We got running back Deonta Foreman going to the Browns. Safety, former Alabama safety Eddie Jackson, good player, ran into some injury issues of late. He's currently a free agent, as well as Yannick Ngakoue, kind of a journeyman defensive end who can get you some sacks in some situations. Bringing in the big ones, your first-round picks, Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze out of Washington and USC, respectively. Keenan Allen coming from the Chargers, DeAndre Swift coming from the Eagles, Jared Everett coming from the Chargers, and Kevin Byard from the Titans, and then the Eagles, and then the Bears. What is your initial takeaways? What are you thinking right away for this big picture Chicago Bears?
They brought in some big names in one offseason. You know, they finished really, really well to the 2023 campaign. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting what one Caleb Williams can bring to the NFL, because you know he's had all the hype in the world.
Yep.
And now it's time to go out and prove that he's not the 4 turnover quarterback that he was against Notre Dame last year. So
yeah, that was. He's at. I mean, talk about highs and lows, man. I think that's.
No kidding.
I mean, that's their season right now, right? Like, you're gonna live and die by Caleb Williams, right? Like, is he the guy, or will he struggle? And that's just not to say that if he struggles this year that he can't ever be the guy, or that you completely write him off. But you know, this is like LeBron James level hype, man. He's been getting this hype ever since his freshman year at Oklahoma, when he took that as a guy who was on Kansas money line, that bullshit 4th down from the running back and ran it for a touchdown. It's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. But like, he's a special player, but mentally, is he there? Right. I think, you know, you could ask that question in college. Now in college, he did have to do just about damn everything. That defense was
no kidding.
You can't even call them a defense. It's a disgrace to football.
Offensive line was not good.
I was like, he literally was a one-man show. So, you know, I think I don't want to be too harsh on him for some of those interceptions, some of those bad plays, because without him, that's like a fucking 5-win team over there in USC. So, but no, I think that's a big question is how good is Caleb Williams going to be? If he is the guy, he's got some receivers in Allen Odunze, DJ Moore.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's got weapons all around him. I mean,
he really does.
Those 3 receivers, bringing in Swift, okay. I mean, you know, but you got Kmet still there. Their offensive line should be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, I think is he going to be good this year or not? And that's going to be the Chicago Bears season.
Yep. I think that's what they're going to live and die by. All right, let's talk about some of these injuries. We talked about, you mentioned Cole Kmet there, starting tight end. He did pick up a forearm fracture last, week 17. Fractures, if they're during the season, it sucks because you just need time. You need about 2 to 3 months to heal. There's not a lot you can do to accelerate that healing process. Sometimes you can have a surgery to kind of make them more stable, but 2 to 3 months, he's got 9 months or 8 months for the season. He should be good to go. Mm-hmm. Other is they're starting right guard, I believe, Nate Davis. He's got a foot injury. Not a lot we could find there on what's going on with the foot, but he was limited in camp and it's been undisclosed. They expect him good for training camp, but that's what everybody fucking says about every injury around this time. So I think that's definitely one to monitor because that offensive line, it does look pretty decent on paper, but they've been suffering from injuries. We saw how much Fields had to run for his life. If Caleb Williams has to do the same, that's really not a great way you want to start your career in the NFL.
Yep.
So, yeah, man,
that's something that I haven't heard being talked about a lot, but like Caleb Williams had the same system all the way through college. Like,
Lincoln Riley
followed him to USC. So it'll be interesting switching over.
That's a good point. I can't say the Bears have been known to be a quarterback-friendly offense, so they really haven't hit home. Whether it's Trubisky, Fields, or any of these other fuckers. Maybe Jay Cutler was the last one that actually could sling it, but
probably.
Yeah, that's the thing. All right,
Yeah.
some of these big
Rex
takeaways.
Grossman.
Rex Grossman, gee whiz. Bigger takeaways here for me. We'll start with the secondary. I think the secondary is a really good unit. You got Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, Tyreek Stevenson. I think the biggest concern is actually Kevin Byard. He looked like a shell of himself when he went over to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, maybe that's because the Eagles just can't play fucking defense and they ruin everything in that shitty ass city. But Byard definitely looked like he lost the step. So that might be concerning. But other than that, they got a solid secondary on paper. Really, their defensive line for me, outside of Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat is, I think that's one of the coolest stats last year was he led both the Commandos and the Bears in sacks when he got traded midseason. You got DeMarcus Walker, Andrew Billings, and Gervon Dexter. I know Dexter because he's a Gator. He's got a lot of potential. He hasn't really put it all together. So
Billings was a Baylor guy, to be honest. But he's one of those like just giant human beings that hasn't necessarily panned out.
Yeah,
in the NFL. He's been a journey, not necessarily a journeyman, but he's been okay, kind of 2-3 option.
Yeah, but none of those guys really impressed me other than Montez Sweat. So he's probably getting a lot of double teams this year. I will still be interested to see his sack number because I think he does produce. So they really should still bring. I'm surprised. They let Ngakoue walk. And they did not really bring in anybody else to get some pressure on the quarterback. Now, again, they do have a pretty good secondary. Their linebackers are pretty good. But, again, without a D-line, man, it's going to make life really hard for the rest of the defense. So we'll see there. And I think it's me. I will go ahead and start on this one. That brings me up to so we talked about, hey, there's a lot of potential. I think this is one of the teams that has the largest variability. Out of this entire division. We really don't know what we're going to get. I think it's a gift that I think they're getting too much respect in the market. I think I'm going to go miss playoffs at plus 100. I think it's, this is a team that was 7-10 last year. They've been pretty bad the past couple years. They're going to have a completely different kind of style of offense with Caleb Williams as opposed to Justin Fields. And that D-line, man, that D-line kind of scares me. So it's really the questions between Caleb Williams, we'll talk about the running back situation, which I don't love, and the defensive line. I think that's enough to push them out of the playoffs. I like the Packers and the Lions in this division, especially the Lions. So I just think that they do miss the playoffs. I don't think there's 3 teams coming from this division. They might be able to beat the Vikings, but I do not think they're as good as the Packers and Lions. I think they need a little more time. And, even though Caleb Williams may be the guy, he's still a rookie quarterback. There's still going to be growing pains there. So give me miss the playoffs at plus 100. The other one I'm going to talk about is, and we can talk about this from a fantasy perspective, the running back room for the Chicago Bears right now is DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, and Khalil Herbert. DeAndre Foreman is no longer there. But you've got 3 kind of guys to me that are all at the same kind of tier, the same level. So this screams running back by committee for me. Although Swift is listed number 1 on the depth chart, I think Johnson and Herbert are going to get a ton of carries. And I also think they're going to throw the ball a decent amount with that wide receiver trio. So give me DeAndre Swift under 5.5 rushing touchdowns. He's had 5 rushing touchdowns the last 3 years when he's been a little bit more of the guy. He still hasn't had a bunch of rushing touchdowns. I think, again, it's going to be a running back committee, and I do think they're going to air it out. And I don't know how many touchdowns this team is really going to put up in general. So give me DeAndre Swift under 5.5 rushing touchdowns as my second bet there. What do you got for the people?
Well, I thought I was going to sound all smart and pick the Bears to miss the playoffs, but you already stole my thunder there.
Well, just co-sign it.
Yeah, so I'm going to co-sign that one. But like you said, I think, the defense, I think, does take a step back. Caleb Williams is the question. The offensive line, the running backs, wide receiver. They brought in,
they've got good wide receivers. Yep.
Bringing in Keenan Allen, bringing in Odunze. Both look like studs. It'll be interesting to see how much they try to get Odunze going.
Yeah.
Especially when Allen's probably on a 1-year rental kind of a deal. But like you said, I think if there's going to be multiple teams coming out of this division, I think the Packers are better. I think the Lions are better. I just don't. I can't trust a rookie quarterback very often. CJ Stroud kind of was in the minority.
I think it's best case scenario, right? And they
Oh,
barely,
by
I mean,
far, the best
they
case
won their
scenario.
division, but they barely made the playoffs. So
Exactly. So, I think it's just not likely that a rookie quarterback leads his team to the playoffs. So I'm gonna co-sign that one for the Bears to miss the playoffs. And I kind of already touched on this a second ago too, but with that trio of wide receivers, Caleb Williams is going to have all kinds of options to people to throw it to, and throw Kmet in there. Swift is pretty good coming out of the backfield. So I think I'm going to take Odunze's under 675 receiving yards at minus 115, just because, like I said, I think they're going to get Keenan Allen rolling. They paid him a shit ton of money for a 1-year deal.
yeah,
they want to get him involved. DJ Moore's been there for quite a while at this point. They know how he operates.
yeah.
He's the vet. So I think they'll want to get him going as well. And Odunze, he's going to fit in there somewhere. I mean, he's a talented dude. He's a top 10 pick, but that room is so jam packed right now.
Yeah.
A year or two from now, he's going to be a dude, or at least hopefully. But I think he starts his career a little bit slower.
Yeah, I don't hate that. He's another guy who was high on Odunze. I almost wanted the Giants to get him over Neighbors. Yeah, that's the thing. You do have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and that running backs out of the backfield, right? And let's be honest, Caleb Williams is probably going to do some damage on the ground with his legs. So it is just about I think this is less of a Rome Odunze play, and just a lot of mouths to feed there in Chicago.
Yep.
So I think Caleb Williams can have a solid season without this team making the playoffs, right? We talked about, they got a pretty good secondary, but Byard gives me some questions, and they have that defensive line really and their O-line, a lot has to go right for this team to make the playoffs. And I think if we're getting plus money for them to miss it, I think this odd makers everybody's a little too excited in Chicago, which, I mean, hey, they're a great fan base. They deserve some success, but I just don't think they have put it all together this season.